Starbucks say they will pay around £20 million in corporation tax over the next 2 years. The company, which has hundreds of coffee shops in the United Kingdom, has been facing mounting criticism over its tax affairs after it emerged that it has paid no corporation tax for 3 years. Well, some pressure groups have called the move a hollow promise, as Emma Simpson reports.
It sells millions of cups of coffee every week, yet Starbucks fails to fill up with profits here in the UK. And no profits mean no corporation tax, until today.
What we've announced today is that we are taking action to pay corporate tax here in the UK. We're going to do it what's beyond required by the law, and we're going to do it whether we make a profit in the next 2 years. We think this is unprecedented. We think that, to my knowledge, it's never been done before.
So what's changing? Last year, Starbucks racked up nearly £400 million in sales, but paid zero corporation tax, all perfectly legal. Now, though, the company has voluntarily agreed to pay about £10 million next year and the year after, regardless of whether it turns a profit. It will claim fewer tax deductions, which helps to reduce its liabilities. It's hard to think of any big company that pays more tax than it has to, but Starbucks, a business that's everywhere on our high streets, has clearly been stung by all the criticism, especially at a time when many of its customers are having to tighten their belts.
If they can get away with it and the government's letting them get away with it, well, good luck to them. What would you do?
Some sort of tax dodge or something is what she was just saying to me, which is disgusting, considering there are so many branches in the UK. Pay our tax rates. We have to.
Well, I run a small business and we do pay corporation tax, so yeah, I'm not happy about it.
It was here last month that the furore began as MPs accused the bosses of Starbucks, Google and Amazon of immoral tax avoidance. Today, one of them welcomed Starbucks' decision.
I hope it sets a real example to all the other multinationals who deliberately export their profits so they don't pay tax here for the activity that takes place here.
The tax affairs of multinationals like Starbucks are now under scrutiny like never before, and some campaigners believe today's move is just a token gesture.
I mean, what we really want to see here is the government clamp down on tax avoidance across the board and make companies like Starbucks, like Amazon, like Google and all the others pay their fair share, and that's what needs to happen.
Tonight, the mighty Amazon and Google said they complied with all tax rules as well as contribute to the UK economy. But the pressure is now on for them to follow suit. Emma Simpson, BBC News.
Well, we're joined now by John O'Connell, who's a research director at the pressure group, the Taxpayers Alliance. Thanks very much for being with us. So what do you make of this fact that Starbucks are paying this money?
It seems to be a token gesture. The MPs that have named and shamed Starbucks, Amazon, Google and all these other companies, they need to realise that they're the people who put these laws in place in the first place, and the loopholes that are there for big companies like Starbucks to take advantage of are all because of legislation put forward by MPs.
But nonetheless, do you not welcome this? I mean, some people have said it's just a gesture. Some people have said it's a joke, actually. But surely it's better than nothing.
What has to happen, and what would be welcome, is wholesale tax reform, because otherwise we're going to be sitting here in 2 months' time talking about the next company that MPs decide to name and shame. What actually needs to happen is for MPs to look at these loopholes as a sign that the tax system is completely broken, nobody trusts it, it's not transparent, and people don't see it as fair. So what needs to happen is that we need a simpler, fairer and more transparent tax system where people do pay their fair share.
Well, but that's easier said than done, isn't it? I mean, we all know you can close tax loopholes and then other ones just open up.
Well, exactly, and tax reform is a serious undertaking. The Office for Tax Simplification were talking about merging national insurance and income tax, for example, but we didn't hear anything about it from the Chancellor in the autumn statement. That one seems to have been quietly dropped. If politicians are really serious about tackling this perceived problem that they have with companies exploiting loopholes that they put in place in the first place, then they need to go away and seriously talk about wholesale tax reform to make sure that everything is clear and transparent and that companies are paying their tax.
But whatever the legalities of it, is there a moral imperative on a huge multinational like Starbucks or like Google, like Amazon, to pay tax, whether or not they can get away without paying tax?
A moral imperative decided by MPs. It's not clear what the moral imperative should be. What's a moral amount of tax? Who can answer that question? MPs are there to put in place a law, HMRC are there to police that law, and if companies are not breaking the law, then that's not immoral. And what needs to happen if politicians are really serious about this is wholesale tax reform, and they're the loopholes that politicians put in place in the first place. We can't forget that.
John O'Connell, thanks very much indeed. John O'Connell there from the Taxpayers Alliance.
The Prime Minister has